Hello everybody, my name is Hjalte and welcome back to the third episode of our Ultimate Sea Ice 2.0 playthrough. So last time was pretty calm. Esme built a smelter and a pen. You can also see that it's currently minus 85 degrees inside of our freezer and 121 degrees below zero outside. So just getting some walls up has helped quite a bit. We are, however, going to poke a hole in the roof, so when Esme is throwing horseshoes, it'll count as outdoors. We have 4 survival meals down here. We still need to collect our trophy and the 214 units of steel up here. You may also have noticed that we have a new addition to our map as well, a silver meteorite. And finally, we have the deteriorating Megaslav wall. We are currently down to 12 units of steel, because we also built these corners last time. And I think that's it. Esme has just hit starving though, so we will wake her for some food. And have her remove that roof tile. Once again though, the wind dies, but as long as we are above minus 150 degrees outside, Esme should survive. So there should be no need for a fire, although she might lose a few fingers. Esme has gotten serious hypothermia now, but the wind is starting to pick up, so she should survive this time. I didn't show you how her skills were coming along, did I? Oh, that's excellent. The first event of today's episode is a wanderer named Callie who wants to join us. And that also means that we need to figure out both a name for our faction and our colony. Fortunately, I did prepare a couple of names that I liked. Our faction name draws inspiration from my channel, so will be called the Incarnated Legion. And for our colony name, Esme drew some inspiration from crushing that polar bear, so our colony will be called Ursus End, from the Latin name for polar bears. I didn't take Latin in school, but that doesn't seem right, does it? Otherwise, why would it be called Ursa Major? And I'm back. A quick search revealed my mistake. I took the family name for bears instead of bear, so our colony will be named Ursus End. And by the way, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, now you know the inspiration for Ursus' name. But never mind that. Let's have a look at Callie. But I can see that she already has one incredibly important thing. Clothes. Well, Callie here isn't great. She is a slow learner, which is a terrible trait. She's also a misogynist, so she dislikes women. Only one passion and generally poor skill levels. She's also only 16. How in the world did she end up hating women that quickly? Anyway, all of this makes her kind of excellent for our purposes, simply because we aren't in a position to take her in. So instead, she's going to selflessly sacrifice herself for the colony. If we have a look at her gear, she only has 17 degrees of insulation, but that's actually rather deceptive. Her synthread beanie and pants, plus her muffalo shirt, are all excellent items. The issue is the duster. She also has a knife that can be smelted and 3 meals. Well, Callie, aren't you Jenny on the spot? So right now, she's going to hold a polar bear. However, we certainly want her to bring something else with her. At the same time, we have to be mindful of how long we keep her in the cold, because Esme won't be able to move very far in these conditions. We can either bring about 135 units of steel home, which is the item we currently need the most, or we can bring the wool, the slag and the bear, which are all the things that will deteriorate over time. Admittedly, I am tempted to make her run up and pick up some steel as well, but clothes are more important to us right now, so we won't risk it. Wow, Randy certainly hasn't forgotten about us, cause we already have the second event of the episode. A transport pod. It's a member of the Shotgun Goblins, one of the better faction names by the way. She's actually doing fine. Her skills and traits aren't bad either. However, she is naked, so Esme don't care about her at all. Alright, Callie's on her way back and she's only just gotten minor hypothermia, and Esme's will be gone by the time she gets to our base. Or at least as close as she can to it. 45%, she might actually make it. If not, she's certainly going to be plenty close for Esme. 59. I believe it's time for Esme to greet our helpful but ultimately doomed friend. Callie here did extremely well. Not only did Esme get rid of her unhappy nudity debuff, she also got 3 meals, 37 units of steel, once the knife is smelted that is, 60 units of Megaslov wool, her trophy, and, given the circumstances of how it came about, a rather grim source of recreation. It seems that Esme is already beginning to exhibit some slightly disturbing behavior, because she's digging a grave for Callie while she's freezing to death. Esme does seem to think that it's a bit nippy out here, so we best get her back inside. And just as she starts to get warmed up, Callie expires, which has given her a small -3 debuff. In other words, she feels bad, but only half as bad as she does when she's hungry, so her choices seem to make perfect sense. However, it's almost time for Esme to sleep, so we'll send her to bed instead of feeding her now. Esme just became starving, but she is almost fully rested, so we'll let her sleep. You can also see that a colonist has been left unburied, and if we don't bury her, that will become a -10 debuff for Esme, which is why she dug the grave. Cause you know, we aren't animals here, and Esme will get some joy from visiting the grave once in a while, from knowing that she isn't in it, I suppose. There we are. And so Esme will go back to her research till her hypothermia is gone. A few hours later, it's time for Esme to smelt the steel Callie brought. Esme has gotten minor hypothermia because weapons still take a long time to smelt, despite yielding so little. We only got 7 units of steel from that knife, but that does put us to 49 units of steel. Unfortunately, that's not enough for anything on our wish list, so Esme will spend the rest of the day researching, only taking a short break to throw some horseshoes. And once again, we'll send her to bed early without dinner. However, around midnight, the wind dies again. We are going to wake Esme for some breakfast because she has just hit starving. And if you're wondering why we keep sending her to bed without food, although she becomes starving, so she never gets a full night's rest, it's due to the poor rest efficiency she gets from sleeping on the ground. And I consider the preservation of our food supply the most important issue at the moment, so I would rather wake her up to eat than increase her food intake. At 4 AM, she decides to return to bed, and we are very happy with that, since it will keep her from breaking. But with our morning snap, the wind picks up. And a few hours later, Esme gets up to a nice toasty room. From here, the day passes without incidents till it's time for Esme's lunch. And since Randy has answered Esme's prayers before, she'll give that another try. Well, it looks like Esme might have a direct line to the almighty Randy. He certainly reacted promptly. Let's see who's in that transport pod. You're s***ing me. I think that's Hyperweave. Oh mama. Esme, I liked you before, which is important if you want to survive. But Randy liking you is so much better. Unbelievable. Maybe ask him for a few thousand units of steel next time. Henry here still has 5 hours left, so that should be plenty. Unfortunately, he is actually quite good. Abrasive sucks, but out here, psychically deaf means we will never have to worry about him breaking due to drones. And Jaga is definitely one of the best traits there is. Great passions, generally good skill levels. If we had more food, we would definitely try to rescue him. But alas, we can't risk it. Alright, I can't wait any longer. Let's see if I was right. I'm going to be so gutted if I'm not. Fantastic. It's in bad shape, but Esme already has the ready apparel debuff, so that doesn't matter. The alpaca t-shirt isn't as good as the muffalo shirt Esme has on, but it will be worth a few silver. If we're being very picky, we would have prioritized cold insulation for this biome, but our first parka, being Hyperweave, is very, very good. Esme is just going to pop that on straight away. Then she'll caravan the rest home. Esme is going to hit serious hypothermia before she gets back, but she will survive no problem. There we have it. But look at that, Esme's minimum comfortable temperature is all the way up to minus 58 degrees. I believe it was at minus 11 before, so that is going to make a huge difference for us. Now, Esme would just return to her research as if nothing had happened. A few hours later, she's hypothermia free, so she's going to smelt that slag, putting us up to 64 units of steel. And since our battery research is almost completed, we really need to get those last 6 units. And we do have a solution for that, but Esme will have to get warmed up first. Remember, we had a shotgun goblin crash with a transport earlier, and with Esme's new parka, that slag should be reachable, even though the temperature has dropped to 140 degrees below zero. Pick that up. But serious hypothermia is an almost unavoidable consequence for Esme whenever she leaves our base. she will resume the research for a bit before she's off to bed. So we'll come back to her in the morning. Esme is going to start off the day by eating the last of the meals Callie brought. We would like to smelt the slag, but there's very low wind. Therefore Esme will return to her research. But only a few moments later, our heaters once again lose power. However, Esme perseveres, mainly due to her new parka, because she doesn't even get hypothermia, and she has finally finished researching batteries. Well, finally might be a little much. We only started this playthrough 9 days ago. Not to mention that she began with 0 in intellect. But anyway, that means it's time for hydroponics, because that will be the primary way that will sustain our colony. A few hours later, the wind has picked up again, which means it's time to get that slag smelted so we can get ourselves a battery. There we go. Now for the battery. That's going to cost us 70 units of steel and 2 components, which puts us down to 9 of each, making particularly the components a concern, because we will enter autumn in a few days. Of course, Esme decides that this is the perfect time to throw horseshoes. We won't stop her though, but that does mean that we'll have to wait for her hypothermia again. In the early evening, Esme is finally ready to finish the battery, and that is essential, otherwise we can't maintain our hydroponics. Esme is going to spend the rest of the day researching, so we'll leave her to it. By the way, some of you might be asking yourselves why we haven't made a bedroll for Esme. And I agree, a bedroll would be a great investment. However, wool, especially Megasloth wool, is one of the most difficult things to get on sea ice, because we can essentially only receive it from Randy or from traders, at least till much later in the game. And there are certain items that can only be made from wool or cloth, like toques. Now we may end up making a bedroll from the Megasloth wool, but for now Esme will go without it for the potential long-term benefits of doing so. Just as Esme is about to become starving, she is fully rested. Esme is going to start researching, and the day will transpire peacefully. Till the late afternoon, when another chunk of a spacecraft smashes into the sea ice. I'm starting to think that this is the junkyard of the Rim. But you know, one person's trash and all that, so we can't complain. Alright, we can complain a little. Randy, could you, pretty please with sugar on top, stop making every event happen at the very edges of the map? You're making Esme's life very hard. At this point, the temperature is all the way up to minus 123 degrees. We will get another snap in a minute though. But this snap has run for 3 days, and this one for 2. So we should be due for 1 expiring. It's a little risky, and I shouldn't be risking our playthrough like this. But what's life without a few risks once in a while? And we are down to 12 meals. It's a long trek, and 22% hypothermia is a little unsettling. Just as Esme becomes a major break risk, one of our snaps expires. Okay, that is a little earlier than I would have liked. Esme is moving so slowly now. I think she's safe though, assuming she doesn't break, that is. 60%. Easy call. I didn't get nervous at all. It was perfectly fine. Esme is going to grab a well-deserved meal and get a couple of hours of work in. Then she's off to bed. And with that, it's time to end today's episode. If you want to find out what happens next, click the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, it'll be much appreciated. Thanks for joining us.